Let's just get this out of the way right out of the gate. Coffin Dodgers is a brilliant premise. I won't argue with you, because there is no debate. Old people fighting off death, the entity, and the action in races with their mobility carts? It's awesome. And as I said, I won't hear anyone saying otherwise. I have no idea where the genius idea came from inside of Milky Tea Studios, but I'm so glad that it did. So the basis of that whole premise is thus. Death has come to the retirement community of Sunny Pines to take everyone out, in the ways that Death is known for. But these 7 old-timers aren't ready to go just yet, at least not without a fight. It's proposed and agreed upon that they'll have a racing tournament, and the champion of that will get to keep their life as they know it. The losers? Well, they get sent straight to hell. Death ain't playing, yo. The moment you start the game, you're treated to a wonderful, if not a bit too loud, little jingle, and from there, the music does not disappoint. Every track is kind of the same, but varied enough to warrant its existence, especially when you factor in they're based off the level motif you're in. Whatever the case may be, the music in this game is jumpy, catchy, and if my memory and feelings don't deceive me, almost like it's Wallace and Gromit or Pixar-esque in style. Clearly, I really like it. Graphically, Coffin Dodgers isn't going to, or even trying to win any awards with earth-shattering graphical prowess. However, what they do offer up is actually pretty charming. The overall look and feel has me thinking that if you didn't know any better, this was a really high-resolution port of an N64 game, right down to the movement and the animations. Now, I know what you may be thinking here, but no, I don't mean this as a bad thing. Like I said, the look of the game is charming, and this art style really helps that out. It feels like this could have gone toe-to-toe with Mario Kart 64 almost 2 decades ago, and given it a run for its money. That's both a good and a bad thing, but I'll get to that in a bit. Within the story mode, which is perhaps the main attraction here, there are, as mentioned, 7 playable oldies to choose from, with death unlocked at the end. Each gets a nice little write-up for us to connect with them, but other than that, everyone is essentially the same right down to the cart. Where you venture off eventually is in your garage, in which you upgrade your vehicle with things like better engines, gearboxes, and baskets, which are for holding the consumable weapons. You earn experience by hitting racers, bystanders, or certain objects in this mode, and with that, at the end of each race, you get money to spend on those upgrades. By the end, should you survive that long, your ride is a much better machine to help you stay ahead of the inevitable. There are 4 locations in story mode, and by that token the game, to battle it out, each with 3 levels to race and cause havoc in. At the end of each area, the bottom performers are left to their word and their fate is sealed. Death takes them. The interesting thing this time is, Death doesn't just put them in the grave to stay. He resurrects them as his zombie army and uses them to race against the remaining seniors. If you end up the last place alive racer in the next series, you become the Racing Dead too. Again, it's a damn good idea, this game. At the end of it all, when you win, Death is ousted from Sunny Pines and you live to see another day. The cool thing about this is, when you do win, you're encouraged to play through again, only this time as Death. Not only because of the achievement or trophy tied to it, but also because the ending changes and you get to see the aftermath of Death winning, with what I really hope is the hint of a sequel. Milky Tea friends, please, make this happen! The other modes are a mix of classic racer and new ideas. The quick race mode is for 1 to 4 players, and the time trial mode is for a single player. Those are staples. But we also have at our disposal a couple of open world modes. One where you can explore all 4 areas at your own pace, alone or with friends. And a single player mode called Crazy Granddad, where you race against time to collect some oddball, old person themed items littered around the land. The open world stuff, it's a nice little idea, and I did have a few moments of fun, but ultimately, it's a side attraction you may or may not play more than a handful of times. The racing itself is pretty standard fare, and exactly what you'd expect from a kart racer game. Comparing this to Mario Kart is a very valid thing, so if you know that game, you can jump right in here. Although sans drifting, but with a road rash-like strike attack. You're lucky these old bags can even wake up to race, so don't go asking for the moon here. And while there definitely is fun to be had throughout, also throughout there are issues that creep up on us. The frame rate can get really moody, especially with a logjam of old fogies or while going around twists and turns. It's not always a problem, but you do notice it and it can take you out of the experience on occasion, especially if you're prone to motion sickness in racing games because these pimped out rides are speedy. The consumable items and weapons you pick up in the races are old-timey suitcases, which is a nice little visual touch, but when trying to grab them, it feels like their hitboxes are really precise, with little to no leeway on squeaking by and nabbing them. It may be a little gripe, but in the long run, there were plenty of occasions I felt like it was right on top of me, and I was cheated out of getting an item. Another control issue is that they overall sometimes feel really floaty. Not as badly once you upgrade your cart, but even with a fully upgraded ride, the controls can still turn a simple move early on into a race ender. With the story mode being the main attraction, and how could it not be with this premise? Have I told you what I think of this game's premise yet? Do you have a couple of hours of free time right now? Okay. I'd have liked it to be a little bit longer. It felt like it was over so quickly. Yes, there are 13 races, but each track isn't 100 miles long. They can be over in a few minutes. Sure, you can replay them with death to get a different ending, but those are the only incentives other than upgrading your cart, which can carry over to every other mode should you choose to. But when this can be done in one run, it's not that great. If every character had their own ending, this mode's length wouldn't be such a downer, but they don't. It's us versus death. I just think it would have been much more resonating if each Elder had their own ending. I understand the overall ending and how it exists, but that didn't have to change. You could have added on specific endings. I know it's a gripe and a nitpick, but it would have added longevity in my opinion. And one final downer I wanted to bring up was a pretty annoying bug I encountered while using the shield item. If you had a shield in your basket and were knocked off your cart, using that shield meant you pretty much should just quit the game and restart the race, because it caused you to stutter and move in tiny spurts. There's almost no way to recover from that. What's worse is you kind of have to use your items, unless you just want to forgo any others the rest of the race. This was mostly encountered on the graveyard races, but it happened elsewhere once or twice. Overall, though, it happened a lot. If you're a fan of easy achievements or trophies, this game should definitely be on your radar. You should have no trouble completing this game. In fact, you could probably do it in an extended play session. I do love me a quick completion, but I would have loved it more if there were achievements tied to other modes, like exploring the open world for a set amount of time, or beaten certain times in time trial mode. Things like that. We get some quirky ones here, but unfortunately not enough for my liking. And I love achievements and trophies. Like, love. A lot of love. I really like them. Overall, if you're in the market for a local multiplayer-only kart racer, you might want to look into this game. Of course, online play would have been a great thing, and it definitely would have given this game more life. No pun intended, I think, but such is the give and take of a small studio. Maybe if the game does well, we'll see an add-on, or maybe in a sequel with it. And ragdoll physics are still a good time, even when used on people who are over 6 decades old. The wipeouts can look hilarious. Content-wise, it's a bit lacking and on par with an N64 game, but to its credit, it isn't asking for $60 to $80 to own it either. I had plenty of fun with Coffin Dodgers, while it lasted. It unfortunately just didn't last as long as I would have liked. I will remember you. Will you remember me? Don't let your life pass you by. Weep not for the memories. Remember the good times that we had. I let them slip away from us when things got bad. Luckily I first saw you smiling in the sun. I wanna feel your warmth upon me. I wanna be the one. I will remember you. Will you remember me? Don't let your life pass you by. Weep not for the memories. Hey, Death, you don't belong in here. Get out of here.